In today's video, we are going to go over a quilt block that has really kind of skyrocketed into the quilting world, at least from what I can tell on YouTube. It is the potato chip block, and there have been a lot of large quilting creators that have been making, well, let me put it right side up, that have been making this block recently. And I had never made one, but I always thought that it looked pretty cool. But I thought that I would decide to try my hand at one with some scraps that I found. In today's video, we'll learn how to make this lovely block, and you can actually go through a lot of scraps in a very short amount of time. So grab your sewing gear, let's get to it and make this lovely block. Also, if you tuned into my video last week, you'll know that I was dealing with some sinus issues. Then I am still dealing with them this week, so I may not be as vocal as normal. It's not as bad, but it's still a little bit there, so I apologize for the nasal sounding whatever, but hey, the show must go on. On to the video. Okay, so here's some of the scraps that I got from my swap partner, my fabric swap partner that messaged me on TikTok. Like I said, she sent me so many beautiful prints that I am not used to having such bright colors such as this, because these were like all new fabrics and all like fancy, like Tula Pink and like super duper like Ruby Star type fabrics, and I am so not used to that, but they were so lovely. Thank you again for choosing me as your swap partner. And I could not get over how cute that this fabric was with the little hamster on there. So the bigger pieces I'm going to be using for maybe some tote bags or some zipper pouches, but the smaller pieces worked out really well for the potato chip block. Some of the pieces were already cut out to the right size, and some of them I did have to trim a little bit. But this is one of those projects that is also very much pre-cut fabric friendly. Like if you have jelly rolls or if you have some of the charm packs, I believe they're called. The chip size that we're going to be using in this is going to be 2.5 inches wide by 4.5 inches long. And for the size block that we're doing, you're going to need 18 of those chips. The ending size for this block is going to end up being 12 by 12, and I'll show you exactly what we do to get to that point. Some of these fabrics were just so lovely. You want to be aware if you have directional fabric, because you want to make sure that it's facing the correct side up or to the side or whatever your piece of scrap may have. But first off, we're going to start with two pieces that are vertical because of the directional fabric that I wanted to use in the middle. And I actually laid out all of my chips in the orientation that I thought would work out. But basically, you're going to start with two in the middle. You're going to add two on the ends, and then you're going to add 2 and 2, and then you're going to add 3 and 3. And this is a block that can literally go as large as you like, depending on how many pieces that you have. But for this video, we are going to go 12 by 12. I just laid out all my pieces, and I had a few extras in case I did want to make it larger, but I decided to go with this size here. Now, once you lay out all of your pieces the way that you like them to be, we're going to start with the center two pieces, and we are going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance down the long side of those two pieces. Now, depending on if you're going to do horizontal or vertical, it doesn't matter. You still want to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance right down the long side of those two middle pieces. Quarter inch seam allowance right down the long ends of those pieces, And for the bulk of this project, I'm actually going to finger press in between the blocks. And then at the very end, what we'll do is we will do the pressing with our iron. Now, paying attention to my directional fabric, we're going to continue and take one piece on either end. And I had to, of course, switch things out. But you're going to take one piece and attach to the ends of the two that you attached in the middle. You're not going to do it on the long ends. You're going to attach it to the short ends as shown in the video. And what you're going to do is just going to put those pieces on both, and then you're going to go back to your machine and you're going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And essentially, that is going to be the entire process of this block. You're going to be attaching on opposite ends that you sew from the process before. But what I do is I go over to the machine, 1/4 inch seam allowance, bring it back, give it a finger press, and then you just continue in the other directions. Now, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be adding a chip every time that you go to another row. So we started out with 2 single ones, and then we added one on each end of that particular piece. Then on the next one, you're going to be adding 2 chips on the opposite sides. And then you're going to be adding 2 chips to the other opposite side. So it's just a process where you're just adding pieces to the opposite sides that you sew in the previous step. So now before we attach those 2 on the sides to our main piece, we're going to sew them together again with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Give it a little finger press, and then we will attach both of those to the sides. So what's fun about this block is, like I said earlier, you can literally make it as large as you want. You could make an entire quilt using the same pattern, and as long as all of your chips are the same size, where the length is 2 times the size of the width, you can just continue going and it's going to end up as large as you want. So once I got it down to the size that I wanted it to be, I got out my ironing board and I did press all of those seams open. I know normally I do press them to the side, but it just seemed to work out much better on this for me to press everything open. But once I got everything pressed up and ready to go, this is what I was left with. And I think that that's awesome. Again, this is such a great scrap buster because you can use up so many of these little chips. And you can make it scrappy or you can make it as color coordinated as you like. But that is the potato chip block. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I will see you next time.